Hello, ladies and gentlemen, all you people out there. If you are looking for the truth, you have come to the right place. This is Project Truth Beam, and I'm Scott Will. This video is going to be on summarizing the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, I know a lot of people out there have not heard of this feast, but it is a holiday, it is a celebration in the Bible, and God instructed the Israelites to do this, and that includes all 12 tribes, not just the tribe of Judah. A lot of people out there will just say, well, that's just for the Jews. But if you read the Bible carefully, it doesn't say it's just for the Jews. It says it's for the Israelites and all those who have joined themselves to them. The mixed multitudes at the base of Mount Sinai is anybody who wants to follow the one true God. And if you join yourself with him, then you are asked to keep the feast forever as a statute forever. That's what the Bible says. However, there is no temple, so we cannot keep it, but you can celebrate it. And there is a difference when the temple gets built, or if the temple gets built in our lifetime, then it'll take Yeshua or Jesus coming down and reigning from it for us to go celebrate that feast again. So all we can do at this time is celebrate. So what is the Feast of Unleavened Bread? We are told in Leviticus, these are the feast of the Lord, the holy congregation, which you shall proclaim their appointed times on the 14th day of the first month at twilight is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it, but you shall offer an offering made of fire to the Lord for 7 days. The seventh day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. That means don't work your normal job. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread is a very special feast because it doesn't technically stand alone. It actually has two feasts within it. So maybe not feast is the word, but so Passover, which you should go check out my last video where I summarized Passover, I get you to the point where you understand that Passover is during the daytime where you are sacrificing the animals. That's when you're killing the animals, and you are to take the animal from the Temple Mount to your house, and you clean the animal and you start cooking it. But you don't eat the meal, you don't consume the meat of the lamb for your family until it's nighttime. And nighttime in the Bible is the starting of the next day, being the 15th day, the first day of unleavened bread. So unleavened bread has this carryover where you're actually eating Passover meat on the night, in the nighttime, on the first day of unleavened bread. And so unleavened bread only makes sense to eat your lamb with your bitter herbs with your unleavened bread. And this is basically a sandwich. It's today we see these hard crackers. That's not what it was. It was a soft, flat bread that was not risen. They did not rise it up to make these nice fluffy breads. So where did all this come from? Well, this is God setting up a holiday, going back to the time that the Israelites had to leave Egypt. In fact, the Bible says this is on the exact same day that he took them out of Egypt, that they left, and they did not have time to bake bread and to waste any time. It's supposed to be in haste. They ate the Passover meat in haste with their, staff in hand and all their bags packed, and they had this unleavened bread that they did not have any time to let it sit there and rise up and then put it in the oven or anything like that. So they made to-go sandwiches, essentially, is what happened. Now, there is a rabbinical tradition that's been floated out there and people just repeat it and they don't know exactly where it comes from. But there is this tradition when people are making unleavened bread, they call it matzah, but it's that once water has been poured onto the flour, you have 18 minutes. And you can find this all over the internet. It's 18 minutes, 18 minutes, 18 minutes. You got to make this bread in 18 minutes. The problem with this is where did they get it? They made it up. Okay, well, does it fit with the story of the Bible? Well, it says that the Israelites, they had the doughs still in their kneading troughs, and they were carrying it with them as they left Egypt, and it took a 3 days journey. 3 days is a lot longer than 18 minutes. So they have a problem. So what the rabbis did is they came up with this miracle. Oh, it's a miracle. Wow. These birds came down and they pecked the dough and kept the dough moving. And so as long as you keep the dough moving, you can actually go past 18 minutes. Now, where is that in the Bible? It's not. The rabbis had to fix their mistake, so they created another tradition. And so unleavened bread has nothing to do with, oh, you know, I have 18 minutes to cook this bread. No, what unleavened bread is, it's flour that has been cooked and made flat. It's a flat bread. And the focus is on leaven. You don't add any extra leaven into it, but we'll get into leaven here in a second. Another fascinating tradition that pops up, and this one really consumes my mind, is the tradition of the thing called afikomen. Now, the afikomen is this tradition that shows up around 1000 AD, and it's kind of unexplained. Nobody really knows where it comes from. I kind of suspect that it was Messianic Jews in Spain that may have come up with this new tradition. But essentially what you do is you have 3 pieces of unleavened bread. And the father of the household, he takes one of the pieces of bread, a dedicated one, and he rips a piece off of it, a small piece, and he wraps it in a white linen. And then he takes it and he hides it away somewhere, away from the children. And this thing is wrapped in fine linen and hidden away. And nobody knows where it's at except for the father. And then after some time goes by, later in the night, and sometimes people will do 3 days later, the son, the firstborn son, is asked to go around and look for the afikomen. And they're checking all these different places in the house. And when they find the afikomen, they then take it to the father of the household. And they say, I have found the afikomen. And then the father will then promise a gift or say, I will get you this bike, this brand new bike. I'll promise you a gift if you give me the afikomen. And then the kid will agree. This is back and forth of hey, you know, what are you going to give me for this afikomen? And the father says, well, I promise you something. You know, I promise you I'll get you this. And then the firstborn son will present it to the father, and then they unwrap the afikomen, and then they take pieces of it and pass it around, and they all eat the afikomen together, and they drink wine and they eat it together. And so it's really hard to mistake in this tradition from a tradition that matches what happened to Jesus, right? He died, his body was broken, and he was buried in white linen in the ground. And then he rose again, and he presented himself and the first fruits to the Father. And the gift that we all get is salvation, freedom from sin. That's the gift that the Father will give to us if we have Jesus or Yeshua on our side. And I just think that's amazing. I mean, it's truly amazing. And all Jewish communities do this tradition to this day, and they don't know they're doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. They just know that it's traditional. And again, it pops up in 1000. And if you go to a traditional Jewish Passover meal at nighttime, they will do the afikomen, and you will see it, and it's quite a sight to see. It's truly a strange tradition that comes out of nowhere. Now, back to the unleavened bread having a second feast in it. It actually has another one, and it's not really a feast, but an offering, and it's called the Day of First Fruits. And I will be making a video on that one. And the way that Jesus fulfills that one is amazing. It's truly amazing. And people need to be aware of what's this Day of First Fruits and how is it important. So the Bible says that all these feasts are shadow pictures of good things to come. Good things being future fulfillments of what Jesus is going to do. And so we are getting glimpse at what the Bible says. Now, the Bible talks a lot about sin. Not all cases of bread is leaven referred to as sin. We have the table of showbread that holds the showbread that's offered to God. And of course, Daniel went into the temple and he ate that bread. And that bread, if leaven was always sin, then that would make sense to offer that to God. But there is time and places in the Bible where it's referred to as sin or it's connected to sin. The Last Supper is another one where there is sin in the bread or leaven in the bread, and it's not referring to sin. Or is it? So at the Last Supper, Jesus says, take this bread, it's going to be broken, it represents my body. In that case, the word is arton. That's bread with leaven. And so Jesus was breaking bread with leaven, which lets you know that it's not the first day of unleavened bread, but 2 days before. So what does that mean? That means that not all cases where there's bread with leaven does it refer to sin. But in that case, Jesus was going to take on all the sin on his body. So you could make the case that that bread also reflects his body that's been absorbed of sin. I'm not willing to go there. So, but leaven in itself symbolizes sin, death, or decay. Leaven also puffs up. And when you see this in people that are very sinful, they're very puffed up, they blow up, they're very prideful in their sin. They're very at war with God, not at peace with God. It amplifies the bad characteristics in someone's body, and you could see it. You could see it. You could see the way they move and the way they act. They're puffed up. And that's exactly what leaven does to bread. It puffs up the bread. Sin is it's an amplifier. And sin and leaven is like yetzer, the word in Hebrew yetzer, which means evil desire. And the other word that's kind of close to it is yotzer. Yotzer means creator. So if man would spend more time with yotzer and less time with yetzer, things would be a lot better. And this world would be a lot better. And that the Feast of Unleavened Bread is all about that, getting back to God and focusing on God and getting the sin out of your life. So the focus is cleaning your house and getting your body is that bread and the sin that makes it rise. You need to get that out. Anything that puffs you up and is destroying your relationship with God, you need to get it out. And so you have 7 days is what the Bible says. You have 7 days to focus on God, to focus on sin, and to consume it every day. Unleavened bread, flat bread. And each time you eat it, you are to remember the bondage. Egypt was bondage. Egypt was sin. They're interchangeable. You know, Satan is the one who keeps you in bondage with sin. Egypt had the Israelites in bondage, and God saved them. He saved them from bondage, and he saves us from sin. These are real easy interchangeable terms. And so as God rescued the people from Egypt, so also Jesus rescued us from the bondage of sin. And so this unleavened bread is a representation of what Jesus did with his body, his sinless life and his sinless body. He saved us from the bondage of sin. And that's how Feast of Unleavened Bread is fulfilled. Now, I am really in love with that feast. You know, it's a lot of food focus, and food is always intertwined in the Bible. And feasting, you know, human beings love to feast and gather and hang out and dance and sing and be merry. And also, he's worked in these cool intricacies of things that you eat and remember. It's a learning tool. And we also know that in the end times, specifically in Revelations, it talks about we are going to keep these feasts in the future. So why not celebrate them now? Why not get on with the practicing? So when it comes to be the real time, we actually know how to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Obedience is what God really wants. He loves us, and he wants us to be obedient. And he said that we are to keep these feasts, but we have no temple, so we should be working on our obedience and working on our relationship with following his instructions of the Bible. I don't understand why people don't want to celebrate these things. These are fun things. You know, we have feasts, we have celebrations, we have holy days, holidays in the Bible, and why people go off and do ones that aren't in the Bible is beyond me. This is Project Truth Beam. I hope this has been very informative. I've surely enjoyed packaging this and bringing this to you. And please leave comments below, like, subscribe, share this out. God bless all of y'all out there. Thank you.